Hey QED coders, this is Michael, and I want to share with you the most powerful tool that is in my AI arsenal right now. And specifically, I want to show you how it works with Janaga. So I am talking about KiloCode, which is a fork of RuCode. So if you're using RuCode, same concepts apply. In fact, RuCode used to be my go-to. I switched to KiloCode mostly because of the subsidized backend that I can switch models. Whereas with RuCode, I brought my own Anthropic API key, so I couldn't really switch models. And now I get to take advantage of, hey, whenever one of these big companies launches a model, I get some free credits to try it out. So, hey, helps me, helps them. So let me share with you KiloCode. All right, so this is a plugin for Visual Studio Code right here. So in fact, you can come up here, and if you go to search for KiloCode, you will find it right here. When you install it, it does say that it's not a verified publisher, so be very careful that you search for this one. So this one currently has 361,000 downloads. Yeah, if you want to be really safe, then look for this identifier, kilocode.kilo-code. So that is the tool, and it is a fork of RuCode. So I still have RuCode installed right here. It's still updating. You can see that I've been using this, but yeah, you can see these prices here. These are all related to my Anthropic API key. So right here is my API provider, Anthropic. There's my key. That's the only one that I've got. But with KiloCode, come in here. The provider is KiloCode, which gives me access to all of these models. Currently trying out Grok Code Fast. And my current take is that Claude Sonnet 4.5 is my go-to. That's what I use whenever I just really want something to work. If I want to do something easy, cheap, and I don't mind checking it over, then I'll do GPT-5 Mini. But and then even up to GPT-5, I still have to check it. But Claude Sonnet 4.5, I get solid results out of that one. Your mileage may vary. These things are very finicky. But what's so special about KiloCode? What's special are these modes. Kilo modes. Or if you're using Ru modes. And I think Ru missed the boat on the name here, because Ru is all Australian named, so all of the stuff have Australian names, and so they should have called these mates instead of modes, and then they'd be roommates. But yeah, that joke doesn't translate to kilo mates. That doesn't make sense. But so we've got different modes that ship in the box. So you might be used to tools that have an ask mode and they have an agent mode. But that's just one agent mode. It's not actually an agent. These are agents. What makes them agents is that each one of these, if I go into edit, has their own separate prompt. And now this one ships, so you can't see what the custom prompt is. But you've got a custom prompt that you can use with each individual mode. So that way you can really specialize it. You can really tailor it down to what it is designed to do. So if I take a look at my project manager mode, then here I've got some special mode-specific instructions. So use the Azure DevOps MCP server to perform tasks for the user. Read existing work items to understand this project scope. Ask clarifying questions to ensure that all work items are complete, clear, and focused. Work with the current sprint, within the current sprint, to coordinate team activities. So that that focuses its attention on a specific area. So you can see these are instructions. You're actually giving the system guidance, not just general information, but instructions. And then in the prompt that you give it, while you're chatting using this mode, it's going to have those instructions, and then you can provide something even more specific. So now you've got that general outline, and then you say, hey, let's create a new user story for this feature. And then it'll say, let me go ahead and pull all the user stories. Let me look at what the current sprint is. Let's see what's happening. And now let's design that user story. Let's use that Azure DevOps MCP server to set it up. So that right there also is another interesting part about modes, is that you can give them not just custom instructions, but also custom tools. So we've got these tools available. So I've allowed this one to edit all files, run commands, and most importantly, use MCP servers. So since this is specifically for using Azure DevOps, I probably would want to go ahead and take away its ability to edit files. It's supposed to be using Azure DevOps in order to persist information. It probably also doesn't need to use the browser or run commands. It would need to read files to understand what this project is all about. Maybe I've got a bug report saved in Markdown, but reading files and then using MCP are really all that I need this to do. So I'll go ahead and tweak that particular project manager mode. So now if I take a look here, you can see that the Kilo modes file has been edited. What is, let's see, Elastic Host? I'm not sure why that popped up. What is Kilo modes? Well, you can see right here, this is a file in my repository that keeps track of the custom modes that I've defined for this project. So custom modes are project specific. They can also be global to the user, so user specific or project specific. I prefer project specific for a couple of reasons. If I'm working with a team, they can see things that are in the repository. They can't see my user custom modes, so it doesn't do them any good. Also, when I switch from one project to the other, I want to have access to different modes. So having them be user-specific really doesn't do me much good. I might come up with something that's general purpose, like maybe a planning mode, or an analysis mode. That even analysis, you would want it to know specifically what it's analyzing. So more like a planning mode then would be generic, but that means that it's only for me. I can't share that with the team, and it's only on this machine, and I work among 3 different machines on a regular basis. So user-specific modes doesn't do me much good, but these custom project-specific modes, these are quite handy. So you can see I've got Janaga Modeler, Janaga View Model, Front-End Developer, and Project Manager are my custom modes. And now you see that it has changed this, and so now the groups are read and MCP, so it's got access to those tools. One thing that I would really love for Kilo to do is to limit the MCP servers that are available per Kilo mode. I don't know if that's coming, but that seems to make a whole lot of sense. I've told this one to use the Azure DevOps MCP server, and so that's the only one that I want it to use. If you put too many MCP servers in context, then the model gets confused, and that number is really small. So you want to limit. In fact, it's not even the number of servers; it's the number of tools, and each MCP server brings with it a set of tools. So I really want to narrow it down to the Azure DevOps MCP server, which has a lot of tools, and then just the ones that are related to work items, read work items, create work items, list the sprints, that sort of thing. Okay. But what I promised you is how does this work with Janaga? And let me show you. So you can see here we've got Janaga Modeler. Let's start with that one. We've got a role definition. All of these have a role definition. This one has custom instructions. You'll see Janaga Modeler doesn't have any custom instructions. ViewModel does, Front-End Developer does, but Janaga Modeler doesn't. Where does it get its its context? What is special about it? Well, right here under the under the kilo.kilo folder, we've got different rules folders. So here's the rules for Front-End Developer, here's the rules for ViewModel, and here's the rules for Janaga Modeler. And in fact, I even have another subfolder here for examples. And so these rules, these describe what it takes to create a Janaga model. And the way that I created these rules is that I pointed Kilo at the Janaga.com website and had it look through the project and compare those two things to understand what it means to write a Janaga model. And then had it create some comprehensive documentation. It was too comprehensive, and so I said, okay, I edited it, and then I narrowed it down, and I said, hey, be concise, delete anything that's redundant, and it said, okay, yeah, boss, deleted a whole bunch of stuff. And this is what we are left with. So we've got specific documentation about how Janaga works. Oops, I didn't mean to reload the window. I meant to open preview. Make it easier to read these rule files. All right, so this is good documentation even for a human. This is what you would need to know in order to use Janaga. And hopefully this information is readily available on Janaga.com and as understandable as this is, or more so, I would hope. So it gives an example. It starts off with an example rather than starting you off with a bunch of theory. So this is what these facts look like. You've got your class with a static property called type. Oop. Can't double click on it. And then you've got a lowercase t type, which is an instance property. And then you've got a constructor that redeclares all of the parameters as public, making them properties. So you end up, once you create a new event, with type, tenant, ID, created at as the 4 properties. And that's lowercase t type. And so that's the pattern. And we start you off with that simple pattern. There's more that you can add to these things, but I start you off simple. Rationale. We talk about immutable records. We talk about a full application namespace, and now we are bringing in some convention to go along with the syntax. And so now the modeler knows about that convention. Constructor ordering and visibility. Predecessors first, that's also a convention. Data properties second, use public, always include created at or created on for auditability. Nope, actually, I didn't read that closely enough. That is the opposite of what you want to do. Only include created at or created on when it is required to distinguish between different instances. There we go. So I don't know if it'll be able to interpret that properly, but let's give that a shot. So we use label types for relationships. This is starting to get into an area that I don't want the modeler to think about. So I am going to take this part out. Yeah. We have label types and relationships, when to add helper methods. All of this is really part of creating the view model. So let's talk about Janaga specification best practices. And let's go ahead and pop that in there. In fact, let's use KiloCode. Let's go ahead and take it for its paces here. And let's tell it to update the stations in Janaga specification best practices right here to include this information. There we go. So we paste that in. We don't want to be project manager while we're doing this, because the project manager is directed to use the Azure DevOps MCP server, and it would just get really confused. Besides, I took away its ability to edit files. So instead, I will do the code mode. So now it should be able to edit that file, come up with a good plan. So we're using Grok Code Fast right now, and it found a decent place to drop that in. So you can see right here is where it added that. Okay, and now it found a different place to drop in the helper functions. So it added helper functions down here. Okay, that's good. So that is now removed from here. And I see here there's more information about created at. So let's tell it to update the guidance about the created at or created on property. It should only be used when necessary to disambiguate among instances. Start with O1 fact classes and check the other rule files. Yeah, so how do you create rules? You use the LLM. You iterate over those rules. And then these rules will get better. I will check them into the repository, and we'll be able to continue using them. What does it actually look like to use one? Well, we shall find out. All right, so it found a couple of different places where it wanted to update things. So I can open this up and see what change it wanted to make. And so there's the change thing. Search for this and replace it with something else. That's pretty much how the edit tool works. It's search and replace. So we can kind of see those little by little, but it's making a whole bunch of other changes. So just like I asked it to, it's going through all of the rules, and it's making those changes in a way that is consistent. So that's one reason that you might want to choose to use your AI to update your rules rather than updating them yourself. Consistency is extremely important for these things. Whereas people can tolerate a little bit of ambiguity, you have something just a little bit ambiguous, and the tool goes completely off the rails. So, include timestamps for auditability has been replaced with include created at only when necessary to disambiguate among instances, which is almost exactly what I typed. Yeah, now it's being a bit redundant. Yeah, labels and relationships, I've deleted that one manually. Okay, so there's no reason for it to be this redundant. Yeah, it's really being redundant. The reason being, okay, and that's where that landed, those two things. So the reason being that it's going to load all of these files into context whenever we are in the Janaga modeler mode. So we don't want a lot of redundancy, because that's just going to take up a whole bunch of extra tokens. Yeah, let's go ahead and hide Klein. I haven't used him in a little while. Okay. So I will stick with this context because it's got some useful information for the next thing. And now what I want to do is to make a pass through and remove ambiguity, or remove redundancy. Keep only one instance of each piece of guidance. So scan the rule files, remove redundant guidance, keep only one instance of each guiding principle. Okay, that's a really short and probably not terribly effective prompt, so I'm going to hit the Enhance Prompt button. Now, the way that works is very model specific, I've found. Sometimes it's it gets really verbose. So Grok Code Fast did a good job with that. It just did a little bit of extra stuff. So scan the rule files, remove redundant guidance, only can keep only one instance of each guiding principle, ensuring that create add is recommended only when necessary to disambiguate instances. It's not that useful. Use the following previous conversation context as needed. Now, so I'm going to take it back to just what I originally put in. Let's go with GPT-5 Mini for this. Now, I have found that GPT-5 tends to be a bit more verbose, so let's see. It's going to take that prompt in. It's given a system prompt that tells it what a good prompt looks like. And then that system prompt says, rewrite this prompt to include a role, a context, all of this stuff. And there we go. Yep, GPT-5 Mini, much more verbose. But there might be some useful stuff in here. Scan every rule file under Kilo Rules Janaga Modeler and remove redundant guidance so that each guiding principle appears exactly once across the rule set. That's useful. Use the provided conversation context and diffs to resolve conflicts, prefer the updated conditional wording for timestamps. Include created at only when necessary to disambiguate instances. Instead of the older, always add created at. Well, good, yes. Consolidate the canonical set of principles, immutability of facts, predecessor first constructor ordering, prefer predecessor facts over raw IDs. This is good. Use a namespace static type conditional created at guidance. Avoid unused helper methods. Good. Class names in Pascal case, and only add minimal helper methods such as of and current into a single authoritative location. Oh, it's going to compact them all into one file. Okay. Replace repeated full guidance in other files with either a one-line pointer to the canonical section or a file-specific exception with precise minimal wording. I'm interested to see what it comes up with there, but I might end up just deleting those other files. Do not leave contradictory phrasing. Normalize all checklists. Okay, here it's starting to get a bit much. Normalize all checklists, quick checks, examples, and anti-patterns to use the canonical phrasing and remove conflicts, especially in occurrences that say, it's really focused on that one. I probably should have started a brand new context. Preserve any unnecessary nuance where a file legitimately requires an exception, but make that exception explicit. Yeah. So after making these changes, produce the unified diffs or full update context for each. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely gotten too much there. But it was focusing a little bit heavily on the timestamp thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this part, which is quite useful, and then all of this other stuff, I'm not really sure of. So I've copied that. I am going to start a brand new task. So it doesn't have any of that in there. And it carried that forward with me. So let me delete all of the others. And now let's expand it just from there. Let's see if it, now it's not going to fixate on these kinds of changes with well, not those changes, but the other changes, the created at stuff. But now instead it should focus just on what I'm asking it to do. So recursively scan every file under rules Janaga modeler and identify the guiding principles, any top-level rule, text, rule block, or metadata file intended as prescriptive guidance. Normalize candidate statements by trimming leading, trailing, white space. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's gone crazy. All right, let's just... Oops. Oh no. Okay. Let's go... Yeah, let's start over on this one. This has definitely gone off the rails. Unfortunately, Control-Z... Oh, yeah, it does. Okay, Control-Z takes you back. Good. So, just that. That's all I want you to do. We'll do that in code mode. Yeah, because architect mode is given some additional instructions that I don't want to apply. Code, just edit some files, please. Okay. So this should scan through those files, take all of the redundant stuff and strip that out, and it should leave us with a very consistent set of rules. Okay, let's read those files. It always reads 5 files at a time when it reads multiples. Doesn't want to overwhelm itself. And then it'll probably come back and say, yep, I want to read 5 more. After it thinks about it for a little bit. So you can see the price ticking up here. So far in this session, we've spent a penny. Still on the penny. Here's the next 5. And that's because GPT-5 Mini is a very inexpensive model, or highly subsidized. I can't really tell the difference right now. But if I were to switch to Claude Sonnet 4.5, then that number would tick up faster. I usually find, though, that it's quite worth it. Claude Sonnet 4.5 gets things done, gets them done correctly, doesn't get confused. What's really frustrating is that sometimes GPT-5 Mini gets confused just about tool calls. It's like, oh, I'm trying to call this tool, and I produce some parameters, and oh, those parameters didn't work. Let me try. And what's even worse is that I tried a tool call, I messed it up. Well, let me give up on that and try something else. No, just fix it. But this should be a nice, easy task for it. let's see what it's able to come up with. So it's looking for more files under Janaga Modeler. It should already know what all the files are. Not sure why it needs to do those again. Yeah, that cost another $1.50 to say, you know what, I forgot what those files are, and let me do that again. Yeah. So even though it's cheap per token, it does waste a lot of tokens on little side tangents like this. Which, yeah, right there, 36 seconds. That's my time too. Okay, so now we did an edit on 02. We can follow along with the edits here. I like to use Git for this. Notice I didn't stage or commit those last sets of changes. So what I'll often do is either stage or just stage, or stage and commit. That way I can see what the specific changes are. But I can remember the small changes that we made before. So now here, oh look, there's a whole bunch of duplicate guidance. So C06 naming and constants. Yeah. Okay. So that was from before, and this is what we deleted before. Okay, so then queries, yeah. Soft deletes refer to the overview for the project's guidance on omitting visibility artifacts during modeling. I wonder why it took out do not add distribution rules at modeling time. Yeah, and replaced it with an even longer reference. I mean, yeah. Anti-patterns. So far it's not really made a whole lot of edits. Yeah, I am not very impressed with GPT-5 Mini. Let's cancel that. Let's switch. Let's give GPT-5 a try. We'll start here and resume. So it still has all that memory, all of that context. It just switched to a more effective brain. Let's see if you can do any better. So while it's working on this, if you are not using Janaga on your project, well, why aren't you? But perhaps you're using Entity Framework. And so in your project, you would have rules for Entity Framework Modeler, and it would know specifically how to create entities, code-first entities. You might have rules for an Entity Framework query tool, so not tool, but mode, so that whenever you are writing an EF query, then you can switch to that mode and knows how to use LINQ in order to get the most out of it. And then maybe you'll have one for migrations, and so you switch to that mode whenever you want to create a migration for some new entities. So these are going to be specific to your stack. They're going to be specific to your projects and specific to your team's norms. How do you want to work together? How do you want the code to be organized? And so GPT-5, the full version, you can see that it, okay, you're starting to make some edits. All right, we just edited 06, naming and constants. So see the global checklist. Yeah, it's doing it. It's taking a little bit of time, but it's doing it. Let's give it just a little bit more, and then I'll turn on the powerhouse, and I think you will see a difference. You'll certainly see a difference up here. So far, we spent 14 cents. Now, let it think for a little bit. You can actually see what it's thinking if you want to. All right, let's clarify some points. We'll use static types with namespace. Now we'll keep the guidance about minimal helpers, but modify README, adjust the document for clarity. So it's just kind of skipping from one thing to another. You know, omitting timestamps also repeats the created@. rule, so I should change that. Yeah, but don't fixate on that. I'm planning to refactor the checklist link. Blah, 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 blah. A lot of thinking, Alright, you've been thinking for a long time. Alright. So, are you still thinking? No, you just made another edit to README. Let's see what that edit was. Here's README. Yeah, you replaced that with that. Okay, so a whole bunch of see this, see that, see the other thing. So far, these files aren't getting any smaller. That was kind of the whole point of doing this. So I'm going to cancel this. And we are going to try to resume with Anthropic Claude Sonnet 4.5. And now let's see if we get some more decisive action here. Okay, if we don't, then it's not the model's fault. It's my fault for making such a bad prompt. But what I would really love to do is to get this down to something just really tight, and it contains all of the information that you'll need in order to be successful creating a Janaga model. So cost unknown, interesting. Yeah. Well, you can see we're already jumped to 45 cents. This last one right here, oh, that was 3 cents. Oh, here we go, 22 cents for this. So, okay, we are burning it up, but I would say that it's really not getting any shorter. So I would say this one, the problem is my prompt. It's not the model. So let me cancel that, and then let's go ahead and use the rules. So there's still more work to be done here, but I'm not really satisfied with the bulk of things that happen there. So I want to keep the kilo modes. Boom, keep those. And that part about where we fixed the created@ and created by, we'll go ahead and redo that, because that wasn't really done all that well anyway. So we're just going to dump everything else. Dump it to crump it. Keep that. And so limit tools available to the project manager. That's all we ended up doing. Okay, but let's use some of these things. What is it that we actually want to accomplish? So I'm going to close everything. Now, let's start with the Janaga modeler. We are going to be inside of app LaunchKing's model. Let's take a look at the the CodeLaunch project, or the model. So I've got things like the competitors and the events and the attendees. So we're collecting information about attendees, including their language preference now, because CodeLaunch Latin America coming up next week, next Wednesday night. It's CodeLaunch Latin America, and we are all set for it. We've got language selection so that you can attend the event and use the app in Spanish. But let's suppose that I want to do something interesting. Let's suppose that I want to send a friend request to another attendee. So how might I do that? So let's suppose that I'm at the event. I need to talk with another attendee. I'm going to send them my votes, and so I'm going to create a QR code with a friend request, and then they can scan that QR code and they can accept that request. How about that? That's a neat little feature. So let's terminate that. We have a brand new, yes, I know Sonnet45 is here. I'm using it right now. We have a brand new session, and so I want to read the CodeLaunch TS file from the LaunchKing's model to understand the CodeLaunch to understand CodeLaunch. And now I want an attendee to be able to create a friend request. All right, so that's kind of explaining the problem. Now, what I would ordinarily do in a situation like this is to create a PRD, kind of a plan for this this feature. And in fact, I would create a user story using my project manager and put that into Azure DevOps. And so you would have that that work item to work with, and it would have the full description of the PRD. For right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to ask mode, and I will have it generate that that PRD right here within the session, and then we can act on it. Sound good? It's a bit of a shortcut, but I think it will demonstrate the capability. All right, create a PRD, or describe how you would. Let's see. Let's describe the requirements for that feature. Okay, so have it understand the model a little bit. Since it's in ask mode, which ships with the tool, it doesn't have any special knowledge about Janaga, so so it's just going to kind of infer from what it can see. So it's kind of reading through the model, saying, okay, I kind of get what is happening here. And so we want to, it's doing a little data flow diagram. That's kind of cute. Let's scroll back up and see that we've got attendee creates a friend request, attendee B receives the friend request. So yeah, that would be the QR code kind of thing. Respond to or cancel, accepted true, accepted false. And we have that was kind of its behind the scenes. It wasn't thinking tags, but that was what it was doing behind the scenes. And then it terminates the session by giving you an official response. And so that's why we see this duplication here. So let's now switch to Janaga Modeler. And so this knows how to edit Janaga facts. And so now create the, I want to start with the friend request. Create the friend request fact type. So Janaga Modeler already has a whole bunch of information about what it means to create fact types. And that's in all of those rule documents, which have a lot of redundancy. And they have right now this, this guidance that they should include the created at. And so you see right here, it has the created at. In this case, that's precisely what we want. Now, here we have a whole bunch of sent by, received by, pending, between. We've got a bunch of these static helper methods. So it didn't follow the advice, the directive to not create those static helper methods until necessary. So I'm going to need to go back in there and strengthen that. Say you must not create these things. In fact, I might even take the information about them out, although it would see them in the other fact types, and it would do that. So, all right. So we've got our friend request response accepted as a Boolean, and then cancellation. I can cancel my friend request. So that's what the model looks like that it ended up with. I would probably have accept and decline as two separate responses. In fact, let me go ahead and say that. Accept and decline should be two separate friend request response types, not a Boolean property on a single type. Okay, so let it stew on that for a little bit. It'll figure out what it should be. Okay, and now the change looks like this. We've got our friend request, still have those things, friend request accept, friend request decline, and friend request cancellation. That's much better. That is precisely what we want. Now, here we've got accepted at, declined at, which are not necessary in this case, but it's got the guidance that it should always have these auditing type of things. But notice here, the modeler also knew to create these type extensions here. So defined for the friend requests type, we've got two predecessors, requester and recipient. And for these three, we just have the one predecessor, the friend request. So that was part of the instructions for that mode, captured in those rule files, and it knew to do that. Okay, let's do one more thing real quick. I'm going to switch back to ask, and I'm going to say, summarize what you, the work you completed in 2 paragraphs. Para, G-R-A-P-H-S. All right, give me a summary of what you just did. Why am I asking for this? Because I'm about to take this and go to a new session. This session, even though the context window, it's got 1 million tokens in it, and I've only used 49,500 of them. This context window, or this session, contains a whole bunch of information that I really am not all that interested in. So I'm going to start a brand new task, and now we are going to go to let's do this the right way. So we're going to create a commit, and now come back here. We're going to go to the Janaga View Model Specialist. So you know what? I'm actually going to skip from View Model. I'm going to go straight to Front-End Developer. And I'll say, this is what I did. And then I'm going to say, the user, create a button a menu item. Let's go with a menu item that the user can select to display or to create a friend request and display a QR code. So we've kind of got that that thing going on. So front-end developer is instructed to create sample data, not to use actual facts and specifications. So I'm giving it the facts so it kind of got the shape, the types that it's looking for, but it should focus on the user experience. In fact, if I had that PRD, I would probably just start with that PRD and say, front-end developer, create this with that PRD. So you will see it's even gone so far as add a QR code icon to the icon component. Let's see. So here's my icon. Oh, okay. It wrote some SVG. I don't know if that actually looks like a QR code or not, but we will see. So why am I going to the front end now and skipping over the view model? Well, it's all to do with constraints. The front end applies constraints to our project. In order to satisfy the user experience, we need to have a particular front end. Once we have that particular front end, then that tells us what the view model should look like. If I went straight to view model, I would create view models just by guessing from the shape of the models underneath it. But starting with the front end, and then working my way back to the view models, I apply constraints to the view models. So this is the order that I like to do things in. I do like to start with the models to give it kind of a framework. This is because Janaga models tend to be kind of like use cases. So the user can do this thing, and so this thing, they can create a friend request. They can accept a friend request. Since the user can do it, it is a fact. And so I like to have those encoded within the model so I can understand just at an abstract. If there was no user interface, the user could still do these things by creating facts. So I'll create the model first, and then I will create the views, and then I'll go right to the middle and create the view models. It's constrained from both sides, so it creates exactly the view models that I need. Now, what I want to do with these rules is to make sure that when you're creating the models, you do not create helper functions, because you should only have helper functions that help you with those view models. Okay, so yeah, I'd noticed that there's internationalization in this project, so it's adding those 18N translations, and so it's automatically doing the translation to Spanish. Yep, so here are my resource files, English and Espanol, and then it's going to add those translations by doing a search and replace. It'll say, oh, yeah, let's see a little search and replace that it's doing. So I want to search for this, which I expect to see on line 13, and then so that's navigation, so replace it with navigation followed by friends, add friend. So here's the English version of that, and end replace. So now let's do the same thing in Espanol, and we see here's the navigation section replacing with navigation, friends, add friend, and the Spanish version of it. And QR modal, it has the title for the QR modal. Okay, so task complete. I have a user interface. I'm kind of curious to see what that looks like. So let me change to app, and launch kings attendee, and then I'm going to do npm run. Well, first of all, I'll do an npm install. I don't think I've done an npm install on this machine for a little bit. So npm run dev. All right, so there it is. Open that in the browser. Pop that over here, and let's see what we have. So pretend you're on a mobile device. So welcome to Launch Kings, or in Espanol. And now we've got add friend. Boom. Add a friend. How it works. Tap generate QR code below. Show the QR code to your friend. They scan it with their device. You'll be connected. So, or you can view friend requests. So these are the friend requests I've created apparently. It's secure. It's instant. It's wonderful. Generate QR code. Boom. That is not a QR code, but that's kind of funny. All right. So then we can close that. Generate another QR code. It's the same set of blocks. Okay. So we've got a user interface. It's not the one that I would want, but let's go with that. So user interface for friend requests. All right, now that we've got that, so let's go back to Kilo Code, and let's take that that summary that we copied before, and then create view models for add friend, tsx, boom, and that's it. Now it knows about the model, it knows about the user interface it's trying to accomplish, and so it's got those two bookends to be constraints on the kinds of view models that it's going to create. And this is using all of the guidance that is in the Kilo Janaga view model set of instructions. And so part of that is to replace sample data with actual specifications. So you can see now here it's using specification. It is writing a specification for those requests. So in that set of instructions, I've told it what specifications look like, and it usually gets them right now. These look pretty decent. Now I would tell it to take this kind of complex logic and roll it into a helper function. I just saw an any flash across my screen. So here's use friend request. There was an any in here. I'm going to need to tell it to avoid any. Oops. Somewhere in here I saw any. Well, maybe it already took it out. I don't know. But yeah, don't want any. I want strong types. Okay, so then we are updating the view to use the view model. So it's taking the sample friend request data and putting it into a create sample attendee helper function. Oh, look at this. Oh, this is bad. Look, it's doing some JSON JavaScript objects rather than creating instances of facts. So this is bad. This is not what we want at all. Yeah. And then this simulate delay. At this point, it should be taking all of this stuff out. Maybe this was the sample data that used to be in the view, and then it decided to preserve that for some reason. So maybe what I need to do is update these instructions to tell it to tell it to go ahead and dump all that sample data. All right. Well, so it should be getting close to finishing out its tasks. It's writing an architectural overview. This is interesting. Yeah, that might be worth a read. I don't know if that's worth preserving, because that is so detailed that you could just read the code to understand it. But yeah, maybe summarize that, put that someplace else. I don't know. It could be useful. But yeah, it created a README right inside of the Friends folder. So it created a Friends folder here. So here's Friends. So we've got that feature in here. I also told it not to do barrel files for individual features like this. So it's creating these barrel files, which is a practice that I don't really see much value in. Okay, but I finished that up. It's using atomic design like it was told to do. It's being careful about loading states. It does say individual loading indicators for each operation. That's not what I told it to do, though. Reactive data flow, yes. TypeScript typed. Full type safety, okay. That means that I shouldn't be able to find an any in here, right? Let me look for the word any. And I just want to look in TypeScript files. Oh, that's a replace, sorry. In, there we go, in star.ts. Okay. So I know that that place right there. Okay, here we go. There is, yeah, there's some sample data that has any's in it. Use friend request, send request. Yep, that's the any that flashed across my screen. Nope, did not follow instructions very well. All right, well, you have to keep an eye on these things. But that is the thing I wanted to show you today. Is we've got Kilo modes. So under Kilo, we've got different rule files, and all of those Kilo modes are documented right here in my .kilo modes file, which you can access from the settings in order to set those up, or you can edit this file, or you can use the AI in order to edit this file for you. Have those retrospectives with your AI to update your Kilo modes, and where is, yeah, there we go, boom, there it is. Yeah, so yeah, update your Kilo modes in order to make sure that they perform the way they are supposed to perform, and you'll get some good results. All right, well, next week is CodeLaunch, so go to CodeLaunch.com, learn more about what is happening there, and that's going to be in Guadalajara, Latin America. CodeLaunch, covering representing 4 different countries. So we've got Chile, we've got Argentina, we've got Mexico, and we've got Guam, and so yeah, that's why we've expanded it. It's no longer CodeLaunch Mexico, it's CodeLaunch Latin America. Looking forward to it. I will see you again on the other side of CodeLaunch. So unless I'm able to get something put together for next week, we will be back live the week after that. Until then, build something awesome. I will see you then.